Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leprechaun Alley. My name is Carrie.
And mine is Michael.
So let's start the show and have a little conversation about the events that transpired on Wednesday.
Oh, yes, I have an apology to make that I had lost my temper and got rather loud about nothing. Um, it just happens from time to time, but fortunately not very often. The way I acted yesterday might happen once or twice a year. But then there are the other episodes, and everybody has them. In any event, so much for that.
Well,
It's,
I always make a joke and say that Michael has a close cousin, Alec Baldwin,
oh yeah, they have a
and we all
similar.
know about the Aries dog. But
Yeah,
even though he's in 1958,
yeah, he's 12 years younger than me, but there's similarity. We're both astrologically, we're both Aries, and he's been known to lose his temper when he was with what was her
oh,
name?
Kim Basinger.
Kim
Well,
Basinger.
yes, he's had quite a few public fiascos
Yeah,
and actually a tragic one recently. Um,
but
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 he's also a human rights
yeah, keeping to
advocate.
the fact that he's in Aries,
Yep.
he may have these little moments of explosion, but for the most part, like me and like him, he's very generous, very
Yes.
compassionate, source of comfort for almost everybody that wanted to. So when we look at Alec Baldwin, big nothing to do about his divorce or his problems with Kim Basinger,
Well, that
but
was years ago.
they didn't really get into the good side of Alec Baldwin, and
Oh, and Kim Basinger is a Sagittarius.
right, and
Hmm.
he didn't get in. Well, yes, but I think there was a problem with their Chinese signs.
The snake and the dog.
Yeah, but who was the dog?
Alec Baldwin was the dog, and Kim
Oh, that's
Basinger
right,
was
right. The snake.
1953 water snake.
Right, and the problem with Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin is that Baldwin was born in a year that ends with the number 8, so it's 1958 in this case. He's 12 years younger than me, so I'm the dog of fire. He happens to be the dog of earth. And I bring this up because when we look at the problem that he had with Kim Basinger, it would have been predictable by any astrologer that knows the Chinese
Yeah, without
system.
even having to get deep
Right.
into it.
The Chinese system of the Earth gravity, the forces of Earth, and how the Earth expresses itself through these 12 animals. And it happens that Kim Basinger is born in the year of the snake. Now, the snake and
Oh,
the
we should
dog.
also tell them before we get started that we are taking live astrology readings.
Oh, yes.
That's why we're here.
We have to
And in
keep
the
mentioning that.
meantime,
Right.
while we are waiting for people to make requests,
We'll talk
then
over
we
you.
just talk about random things,
Right.
and
Yeah.
hopefully civilly.
So now we're bringing up Alec Baldwin because, like me, I behaved badly last Friday, and I needed to apologize. And I was thinking of Alec Baldwin who had a similar situation. He got notoriety because for being violent, and I forgot what he did. With he yelled at his daughter and or Kim Basinger, whoever it was, but he became very
Right.
verbally violent.
Yep.
But these explosions occur from time to time for certain areas, but it does not last very long. It disappears afterwards, and they're able to restore whatever they had going on before. They don't all of a sudden become estranged.
But the challenge with the Aries, of course, is that even though they have temporary bouts, it can be incredibly destructive. And the problem is that they might blow something up.
Well, everybody has that capacity. So, but
Right.
in the case of Alec Baldwin, being born in the Earth year of the dog, dogs and snakes can get along because in our Western zodiac, these two signs that they occupy in the Western zodiac are ruled by Venus. So the snake would be in the month of Taurus, ruled by Venus, and the dog would be in the month of Libra, which is ruled by Venus in Western astrology. So they are compatible. But what was the problem with Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger? Kim Basinger is born in a water year, and Alec Baldwin in a earth year. In China, these two elements do not mix like we have them in our Western zodiac. In our Western zodiac, we pair the fire signs with the air signs, and then the water signs with the earth signs. So there's the earth and water get along. But in China, earth and water do not. So Kim Messenger presents a problem to the earth in that it wants to erode the shape of the earth. The earth, of course, on its positive side, keeps the water at bay. And we see that we name certain bodies of water certain names because they appear like something that we know. Well, the earth actually gives form to the water person. So when the earth and the water are in agreement, what happens is that earth comes up with practical ideas and water comes up with proper schemes to get things rolling very quickly. They get around everything.
Yeah.
And they're already engaged. And the dog is still thinking about this. So you have this conflict going on that the water person feels that the earth person is controlling by virtue of maybe saying nothing as a way of controlling, while she, as the water person, is reacting to many things. Water reacts and earth does not.
Because water is a conduit.
Right, they're in contradiction to
Mhm.
each other. And so they're called enemies in the Chinese system of zodiac because they're opposites. One wants to stay still, the other one wants to move. So we see Kim Basinger feeling trapped by the earth, Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin feeling manipulated and
Right.
there's some kind of um, um, scheme was being plotted without his knowledge. So that he was not at an advantage to be a partner in the things that took place or came after whatever incident. He didn't have the ability or the wherewithal to say, "Let me think about these things when they happen." So that would be the major problem between these two. They could attract.
Hi, Mo Runs. Welcome. Thanks for coming back to the crazy farm.
So, and Alec Baldwin would have found uh, Kim Basinger to be unreliable. They're moving around too much. They're reacting to everything as water does.
Well, and I have another way to frame that. Alec Alec Baldwin and Aries in general, they want everything on the table. They want everything out. Whereas someone like Kim Basinger is going to be more reserved about the way that she expresses herself. And this is also about, listen, let's discuss the divine feminine. Let's discuss yin and yang. She's going to be thinking about what is a kind way to say this, or how can I say this so I don't, that someone doesn't feel attacked? How can I say this so someone doesn't feel like I'm insulting them or putting them down? So, of course, when you give that much thought to something, somebody who is shock and awe in their personality and the way that they communicate, they're going to experience that as being manipulative. And sometimes the Aries, they have to put their head down, not to go into fight and ram mode, but sometimes you got to go, oh, wait a minute. There's a receptive yin there for me. That's what's going on. So sometimes they get too carried away with their passions and their intensity to be able to be in a state to recognize that. But they do. Eventually, once they calm down, they receive it. Why? Because they like being loved, because there is this beautiful, innocent child inside of them that needs that love and universal acceptance. So there's this interesting dance that happens.
Now, getting back to this conflict between water and earth. So eventually, the water person is going to do something very radical that will really upset the earth person because the earth person wants to maintain order. And when they were having fights, we're not going to call everything an argument because that's very philosophical, the argument that is. when they were when Kim Basinger was obviously possibly reacting in ways that would she knew could really anger Alec Baldwin. And Alec Baldwin would act as if no matter what decision he came up with, that it was the law that he believed in, and whether you accepted it or not, it was a standard that he would use nonetheless. And so he would probably start to criticize the faults that he finds in his mate, which is Kim Basinger.
Right.
And what we know about water in China is that the water people get offended very easily
They feel soiled.
because
Right.
the water is
Impure.
pure only when there is nothing else, no sediments of any kind.
Right.
Even half a drop of a little bit of ink in a tank, you'll never see it, but you've tainted the water. It is no longer pure, and it's no longer pure at all ends of itself. It
Right.
doesn't have to know how far this thing that was dropped in went. They already know, because the water knows itself entirely. It's
So
something that we can have discussions about water, and I have a lot
right.
to say about it.
Yes. When a person feels completely soiled, particularly the water year. And I know this as well because my father was born in 1952. So he's a water dragon as well. And he is every bit a man, very masculine, Navy, all kinds of fun stuff, kind of the old laughing drunken sailor archetype, if you will. Oh, but God, is he sensitive. He has a big, beautiful heart. And well, he's more because he's a dragon, he suffered silently. But I always remember, especially because I had issues with, you know, how you have issues with your dad. And then once I realized that he's a water dragon, I was like, oof, boy, even if I'm mad at him, I'm going to find another way to communicate with him because that's what matters.
So, keeping with this discussion about water, so water years, maybe not mention them, but there are the years that end in 2 and 3
Of the decade.
of
Yeah.
any
Decade.
decade, 1972, 1973, 1982, 1983, like that. 2003, 2013, 12. There's you're going to see. It's always easy to calculate just getting the name. The what was I saying about
The 2 and the 3, we're gonna have a little
right?
conversation about water.
That those are the water years, and these what China says about water, they're extremely sensitive. That they are very impressionable. They tend to work from a source of knowledge that oftentimes is not understood because they're taking it from their, let's call it, higher psychic self, or the higher, the phantom self, the self that's probably the soul. We can't tell. We
Yeah,
don't
there's
know
kind of
that.
a little floating that goes on.
So 2 and 3 years are not to really get involved with. 8, 9 years. In other words, 1923, 1922, 1923 versus 28, 1929.
9.
These are going to aggravate each other. If you're going to get involved with the enemy, then you have to be prepared to yield a lot. It gets into the psychological condition
Mhm.
of a home life. So if you're going to get together with that, you can't just decide that what you're interested in and what you think you like is all of it. There are all the other parts that come with all the things that you think you're going to get, um, things that maybe will surprise you. In any event, so that's the one thing that we can say about these numbers 2 and 3. Now, at some point in time, I guess maybe
Oh,
we should go
you
ahead.
know what? Let me do that. Um, I'll do that here. I'm gonna give her, she wants the email. I'm gonna give the email here in the comments. I'm okay with that.
I don't know who you're talking to.
Oh, Kamal Run. I'm sorry. She just asked if we would provide
Okay,
an
so
email.
somebody
So
in the chat room.
yeah, our buddy, our hanging buddy. God bless. So this is it. But I'm going to give my email in the comments here because it's not in the comments below. So most people aren't going to look for
Okay, so
that. Oh, yeah, so you're talking about, yeah, so
The
it can
water
be,
and versus the earth.
and honestly, I have to say that to me, that that seems like the most difficult combination. I think it's even more difficult than fire and metal.
But when you look at Kim Basinger, she's
I mean, I
supported.
think that the earth and the water
Yeah,
signs together, that can be, I
but
think that's the most challenging
one,
coupling. Because
but
even the fire and the metal,
to
yeah,
Alec Baldwin's credit, he put up with obviously maybe some insane moments with his wife Kim Basinger. We don't know, but we can surmise that because she is water. What's interesting is she's not only born in the year 53, which is water year, but she's also her own sign, her Western sign, Sagittarius,
right.
belongs to the rat. And that animal wants water.
Mhm.
So now we have Sagittarius having water in the Chinese system because it's a whole different system from our
Yeah.
West. So we look at her with Alec Baldwin, who really has a slight problem with his own astrological makeup because he's born in the year of uh, Earth, but his sun sign, which is Aries, which is in China, it is the dragon, and it is ruled by wood.
By the way, Mo runs, don't worry, you're part of the flow. We're good.
So what you have is a man now that has his mental self, the month, the thinking process, in an opposition to the internal self, the gut, the feeling, the knowledge that you have contained. That would be the earth, because the wood is fighting with the earth. The wood is the enemy of earth in China. So wood use. So now we have Alec Baldwin, who's already in a stressful place because he has arguments going on in his mind into what how things are, what's right, what's wrong, and what to do. While Kim Basinger is more settled in with her water nature because she can own that aspect of life completely. She doesn't have any real major events going on. Of course, we didn't do a chart net to look at really all of her astrological nature, but so far from this surface reading, she has she's in a stronger position than he is, even though Earth, according to China, wins over the water. But that would there would be some form of defeat in the confrontation. But that's was enemies. What is said also is that you have friends, but and close who are near, and enemies who are dearer or closer to you than everybody else, so that you minimize the possibility of them turning on you. At any event, getting back to this water and earth. So now we know, people want to know now if we want to go through the elements in terms of the Chinese elements, maybe we should do that one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we will start with looking at the Chinese year that
Hi,
corresponds.
Sylvia. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so if we look at the at numbers, we start off with the zero, zero and one. And the Chinese will call zero the yang version of one, and one itself is yin, belongs to the properties of the physical body. The other is the invisible self, or let's say the God self. In some ways, it might not be mostly. Maybe it is the variation of God self. So 0 and 1 years. So anybody born in 1910, 1920, 1930. Or 2010, or
2000, 2001.
1911, 19,
Right.
2011. These would be metal years. And what China says about the metal is that this represents strength, it represents determination and an attitude that is difficult to change because metal is looking to be pure and it is constantly trying to avoid impurities,
That's me.
and in some ways
I'm
they
metal.
some of them actually become what's the word, engrossed in the problem in life, and that becomes a major problem that they have to fight.
It's well, yeah, we have a lot of issues with anxiety. That's really the big thing. How we
So,
appear, everything was supposed to come out perfect, everything has to be shiny
right,
and beautiful,
this is
and
exactly what
yeah,
0 and 1 years do.
right,
They have to attend to their appearance and the appearance of their homes and their cars, and usually tidy and clean and not very
right.
complicated.
Well, and let me add, I'm a metal dog, so it's not so much about how beautiful my home is as much as it is about a mirror to say, "You're beautiful." So whoever looks at me is looking in a mirror that says you're beautiful. So it's kinda like that with a dog because it's internal.
In any event. Metal people usually are trying to obey the law or enhance the law or write the laws. So metal is the one who does that because metal has the proper way of discriminating. And when we use the word discrimination, let's not fondle the idea of racism of any kind. This ability to discriminate is necessary to know the difference between good and bad, between half good and half bad, or right from wrong, or left from right. So these people that are born in the 0 and 1 tend to, at their negative side, tend to be estimate their power. They push their power around. They try to intimidate people that they know. Will usually pick on weaker people than themselves. Uh, they will not change easily. But on the positive side, metal is the one that really prepares you to understand your environment and what has to happen in your environment. So they represent society, agreements, uh,
Contracts.
contracts,
Yeah,
um promises, whether they're written or expressed in word.
right.
So the middle people are serious people.
And
And
can I just mentioning, if you don't mind, there are little like public service announcements I like to make with certain words.
mhm.
Um, shoot, gosh darn it,
Well, I was talking about
talking about contracts,
right,
society.
the 0 and 1 being involved in serious scenarios. So a lot of these 0 and 1 people are either going to be very, very well polished and agreeable
I'll come back. I'll circle back.
because they want to present themselves in a very honorable fashion, clean and somewhat current in their design. Um, so that if they're good people, can rely on them forever. They tend to stick to whatever they started doing. So if they're on the negative side, well, there's not too much you can do with 0 and 1 person. But
Right, right.
you'll find that
Mm,
most of these metal people will be people that want to excel in society, present themselves as accomplished and all dignified.
yeah,
And the interesting thing is that 0 and 1 is metal, and it corresponds to the Chinese years that want metal, and they are the group between Virgo and Libra. So it's, or should I say, Leo and Libra. So we look at 0 and 1 years. We have Leo, which is
the monkey.
wants the metal,
Mhm.
and he is the monkey. So metal is what he wants, and if he doesn't have metal, then he has to contend with either other modes of acquiring things or and avoiding certain negative things. So it depends on his own research. So with the metal person, uh, if they're good people, you can trust them forever. They will be there, honorable. They're good servants. They tend to be servants. Generally speaking, they don't necessarily want to be in charge of their business, although they make good business people.
Right. And they typically have a code of conduct
Yeah,
that they can articulate. If they're
yeah,
really solid,
right,
they're gonna
right,
spit it right out.
right, right. So those are the signs. So the Leo being the monkey, Virgo
Virgo being
being the
the
chicken,
chicken.
and Libra being the dog. This is the group that wants metal,
Yeah.
and their presentation is very important.
Then the
So,
water.
what?
And then next is water.
Well, I mentioned the 0 and the 1. There's a difference.
Oh,
What I just said pertains to both the 0 year and the 1 year. And
yes.
what the difference is that the 0 is the yang version, and while the 1 is the yin version of the metal. And what's the
Yes.
difference? The
Yes.
difference is that the
Huge.
yang version is paying more attention to how he's accomplishing things outside, what's going on outside.
Right.
Whereas the yin is much thinking much more safely. It looks at what's going on the inside.
That's
So
right.
when things are happening, they measure the value of those things by how they feel. The feeling is
Yes.
a very
Yeah.
important thing to the metal people.
Yeah, that's something that I should remember when I'm talking to one people, that I should also remember
Well,
to
you
say
have
that.
a double jeopardy because your
Oh,
month belongs to water, and so
yeah.
metal and water are compatible in China. And the difference is that metal is the hard part of the one
Right.
becoming uh, water or whatever.
Yeah, when I'm reading, though, I always forget about that 0 being the yang
Right?
quality, which is what and I'm a 0, and I
So
do have a lot of
the
yang,
yin version is going to
but the yin version is the 1.
the yin version is going to make yourself comfortable, not really with what's going on the outside.
Right.
But their own presence, their inner nature shows, and that's how they communicate. So the yin is the metal trying to do the right thing, but keeping it silent because they don't want to make a mistake, in which case they're going to get criticized, and that's the end of the world for water because criticism is taken very poorly. It's very difficult on them. I make certain because of my wife here was born in the metal year, and I have now made the first 10, 12 years were horrible, but that was my fault. But we survived.
Well,
In
let me
any
say,
event,
I have to say, let me make this point. I didn't think Michael was coming out of the hospital in 2020. When he went into the hospital, so many things went wrong, and that's when COVID first started,
started while,
and
while I was in the hospital.
everything, all of the he had multiple organ failure. His whole body was just swollen up with water. His
Oh yeah,
ankles looked like tree trunks.
my legs looked like tree trunks. That was true. It was very dangerous. In the hospital, they were doing nothing for me. I think they were waiting for me to die. And that's how I felt. Every time I called my wife, I told her, tonight I'm going to die. I'm not going to be here. Somehow I pulled through. That's a long story, but
And
getting back
so
to
no, I want
Carrie,
to
who's
finish my
metal,
rant. I want to finish my rant because I want to make this point. I decided then and there I wanted to get Michael on video. I wanted him on my channel. And in the event that he portals out of here before I do, I am going to watch the last Wednesday's video over and over again, laughing my ass off. Just so you know.
well, yeah, I have a tendency to make
I will
people laugh.
have that forever.
Well, I have a tendency to make people laugh by doing clumsy things.
Right, very awkward.
I was
That's
described
what I
as
should have said, awkward.
I was described as Mr. Magoo at one point
Yes,
because I was
yes.
working on a site with my excavating machine, and I had 3 or 4 people on the site working, and I'd be walking across the earth that was being crushed and turned and everything else with the machine, while the machine was inches away from me. And the owner said that you look like Mr. Magoo. You were just walking back and forth, not even looking at
Yeah,
where the
Michael
machine
could
was
be
coming.
walking through the gauntlet and not even know
Uh,
he's
uh,
walking through the
uh,
gauntlet and
and,
nothing
and,
happens.
and completely, and nothing happens, but I don't even think
And that's actually kind of an
that
Aries quality too.
this
Yeah.
machine was running all over the place. And the owner said, I don't know what's going on, Mike, but you look like Mr. Magoo. You just seem to go through dangerous things, and
Yeah.
you're out of there before the danger
Well,
really occurs.
he's actually standing there. He's actually got his hands up going watching
Right,
Michael.
right, right. Yeah, it was my friend as well as my client, or my customer.
What is it? You almost got knocked out of a tree?
Not at that property, but
No,
yes.
another I
Oh,
mean,
yet another
we should talk about some
another
of this because
place,
it's he
Mr.
definitely has clumsy puppy stories.
It was yeah, it was in Matinacock, between it was right next to Locust Valley.
You gotta talk about the car falling on your chest
I
too.
went up the tree and I was trying to
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
get some sunlight on the poor little uh, I can't think of it. Light, no, dogwood. It was a dogwood tree. Dogwood, and I wanted to save it. So I thought to go and cut this large limb. Now it happened that this material was, I think, it's what they make bats out of. I can't think of the name of it, but chestnut is one of them, and some other. Any of
Walnut?
it? What?
Walnut, chestnut?
No, not walnut. The chestnut was one of the strong. The other one was more of a. I can't think of it. Was a. I can't remember. So in any event, I was up there and I started cutting underneath this large branch. Oh, by the way, there were no real branches to hang on to. These are the asp tree. That was what it was. And they have these limbs that just go up in the air and curve a little bit. So I managed to crawl up one of the limbs that I wanted to shorten and get rid of the shade on the dogwood. I cut underneath first so that I had a clean cut when it fell, and then I cut at the top. I went through this large branch with the little chainsaw that I had up there. While my legs are hugging the tree so I won't fall, and I start thinking, what happened? This thing wouldn't move. So I started to reach out to get it, and all of a sudden, a little wind came by and it disconnected, and it came at me. I just immediately put my hand out and moved it from direct hit with me. Then as it was passing me, the little branches caught my hand, my glove. I was smart enough to open my hand and let the glove go. All of this in maybe 2 or 3 seconds that took place.
I mean, it was what was that about?
And then as the end came out, it had a V on it. So
Was it about a 200-pound limb or more?
yeah, but the whole thing was at least 1,000 or more pounds. The limb
Oh
itself.
God, I never asked that question
And as the
before.
branch, as it came near to the outside of the branch, as the stump part that I cut went past me because I had it hanging on a tree with two people at the bottom to hold it up. Well, I got all of a sudden, I thought I was free by pushing the tree away from me, and it was going back nice. And all of a sudden, bang! I get hit with the part of the tree that spread out right on the face.
That was probably the best place for him because
And
Aries have
I
a hard head.
swung up with my head all the way, and I turned, and I'm still just hugging the tree with my legs. There's no branches underneath me, but the main chainsaw is still running, and I'm twisting my body to let the tree go past me. And then I was worried they was going to come back and hit me because the men that I had at the bottom, they held the tree up. They were supposed to simply control it from falling quickly. Instead, they held it up so it was swinging back to me, and it didn't hit me. And then, after I knew that I was safe, all of a sudden I saw light from the hit. It happened after the fact because I was very, very alert at not falling out of the tree and getting hit by the limb.
Oh,
And
you
then I
have to
came down with
say,
the chainsaw still running, and I came down.
in the meantime, he had guys on the ground that watched this whole scene.
Right,
And
right,
there was a fellow, was actually one of his wife's father-in-law that was
right,
working with him,
right, right.
and he said anybody else would have been
No,
dead.
that was my father-in-law.
Yeah.
He worked for the AA, the AAA organization that Franklin Delano Roosevelt created.
Mm.
So he knew he worked on those like farms. He went to the West, like in California, and they were cutting those big limbs. And he said, Mike, you must have had somebody up there watching over you because I've watched men, uh, many men get killed that
Oh,
way.
yeah, remember?
Yeah.
Because way back in the day, because this guy's way old school. Remember back in the day, Hoover Dam, all those
Right.
people?
They all, that was organized by
I mean,
Franklin Delano
the
Roosevelt when the big deal.
skyscrapers in New York City, Native Americans were building
Right,
because they're
right,
crazy in the
right.
most delicious way. They were
Well,
working
they were very
barefoot.
short-footed.
Yeah, barefoot.
Yeah, short-footed, very
But
short-footed.
yeah, so no, I was actually saying, no, they did. They worked barefoot, some of
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, that was true. That they were the Indians were basically the
So that
people
must have
that
been
were brought
really
here.
interesting to watch.
Yeah, yeah, the Indians. Well, we still have, I guess, up in the northern section of New York, is where the Mohicans are. Very small group,
Yeah, we're in
and the
like the
Mohicans were
Iroquois.
really, Mohicans were really
We're in Iroquois
they were in
territory. Yeah.
charge of almost the whole Northeast, from let's say Pennsylvania up until Maine. That's how far up it was. That was the all under the Mohicans, and Long Island was under the Mohicans. And of course, Long Island, we have plenty of names, but only one tribe left. But plenty of Indian names of the groups that we hear. So getting back to this, the metal and water. So metal and water, the good thing about them is that when you're comfortable with them, you can count on that comfort. You can really, that's very consistent. And neither
And
one
they have your
really,
back.
right. The water, as I said, is the reactive.
And it's a deliberate act with these people to have your back. I
Right.
think that's also true for Earth people.
Well, it's the earth that is more making more of that promise.
Yeah,
Than
they're the
water.
most deliberate.
They're the ones that if
The most deliberate about everything.
if they stand behind you,
Mhm.
they're there forever. They
Yeah.
no ifs, ands, and buts
Make sure
about
you
it.
get some Earth friends.
So metal people tend to be people that you can say they're trustworthy, that they have high values, that they are somewhat optimistic because they know that the way they present themselves is so important. And when we look at the signs that are under the metal group, the monkey is known as the man of 1,000 faces in China.
By the way, his Leo rising also. He has Leo rising, which corresponds to
Right,
monkey,
right,
and he's damn lucky that he had that monkey when he
right.
was up in
Well,
that tree.
the hour of my birth
Yeah.
was the year of the monkey, the animal monkey, the month that it corresponds to, which is Leo.
I mean, I have to say, both of my husbands were Martian men. Even though
Right,
my
right,
first husband was a Scorpio
right.
in a feminine
Scorpios ruled by
sign.
Mars,
It was crazy.
and
They were
I'm
both crazy.
Aries ruled by Mars.
Michael's had his leg ripped off. They both had motorcycle
Oh yeah,
accidents.
yeah,
I have a thing for the bad boys. I just don't want to be bored. That's really
yeah.
the problem with me.
Well, it is said that Aries is accident prone, and that's certainly I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I had a car falling on my chest. I had a motorcycle accident before that. I had the tree hit me in the face, and then when I ended up in the hospital, I had no attention for almost 3 weeks straight.
Yeah,
I
because
was just
nobody,
left there to
because everybody
die,
was, yeah, that's
to
how it
die.
felt.
I
Yeah.
literally never saw doctors. I was just in there. I think they were waiting for me to die, but I didn't. Anyway, I got out of all those troubles. I'm in a much better
Yes, and
place.
we're in a much better place now.
So getting back to the 0 and the 1. So now we've covered the 0 and the 1. And if anybody's born in the year of 0 and 1, by all means, give us a shout, and we'll answer any questions that you have.
Oh, and so you know what? I did want to go on a little bit of a sideways rant. So You may feel compelled to comment,
Hmm.
or you may be like, I don't know, that's her thing, whatever.
Yeah,
So we
well,
have that
whatever.
stuff.
Well, we cooperate.
So, I really feel like this is a really good time, a really good opportunity to bring up yin and yang, to bring up the concept of the anima and the animus,
Hmm.
and to bring up the
Which
notion.
was created by
Carl
Carl
Jung,
Gustav Jung.
right. So, and it's the anima that's the feminine and the animus that's the masculine.
Right.
Okay.
Which is positive and negative, and all they mean is that they're opposite sides of the field. It doesn't mean that one is because it's positive it means good, and negative means bad. It's absolutely not true in astrology. So we'll keep repeating that so anybody thinks that they're bad because the number used to describe bad. No, we'll correct that when it comes to Chinese system. Any of it, we want to go on. You were
So, yes.
saying.
So, in
So I was in the
we have a
hospital for
culture.
2 months, for a year, for a
Well,
month.
you were in the hospital for almost 4 months straight, and then we're in and out of the hospital for different things for a
Right,
year,
right, right.
and now we've kept you out of the hospital.
Well, I've starting to reconstitute myself.
Yeah, yeah, thanks to my naturopathic doctor.
Well, yeah. Well, I abused my body for 90% of my life. Worked 10, oftentimes 14, sometimes 16 hours per day.
Even though, and he's been a vegetarian since the 70s,
Right.
but yeah. But again, he listen,
Well,
we all need.
I was doing research on supplements. I was taking cat's
Right,
claw. I was taking
exactly.
vitamin B12. I'm trying to remember some of the things. Astrologos,
Astragalus.
Stragolus.
Mhm.
No, I really did
I
a
take
lot
that
of
still
research.
now. That helps with your
When you
hormones
talk to me now,
unbelievably.
I can't tell you about supplements because I've lost interest in them. But I know one time I was very
Yeah.
involved in that.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like you lost interest, it's just that life kicked your ass and then you couldn't stay
Right,
on that.
right.
Yeah, and that happens to all of us. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, you know, something that's really going on in our culture, especially with all of these culture wars. I know I'm paraphrasing, Richard Grannon is hilarious, but especially with the fight between the male and the female. Richard Grannon Spartan life coach. He's an interesting, kind of a motivational speaker. And he does a lot of conversations about this too. But one of the things he said, it was great. He said, if anyone spends more than an hour watching television or more than an hour on social media, they are a wank sock for this culture. That's what he said. Because watching all of these things, like, and it doesn't make any sense. We're watching all of these things that tell us who we are. That's insanity. That is freaking insanity because all we're witnessing is mass confusion being expressed. That's it. There's no order to it. And you know what that is? Mass confusion? That's toxic femininity. That's what that is.
Right,
That's when the yin goes bad.
right.
And Nietzsche
Nietzsche.
or
Yeah,
Nietzsche,
yeah.
one of the things,
He's
by the way,
A Russian writer. He wrote The War and Peace.
we hear all the time, have hope, have hope, have hope. Nietzsche, and I completely agree, and I will tell you why. Nietzsche says that hope prolongs suffering. That's also a stoic,
Exactly.
that's also a
Well,
stoic
Nietzsche was
disposition.
very stoic. Yeah.
Hope is also, I'm so sorry. Please, I will clarify this. I promise. Don't despair. Hope is a form of yin. It's receptivity. That's toxic. If you're in danger, you have to get in your body and you have to be prepared to act.
Right.
If you are living in a state of hope and passivity, and no, and believe me, these all have value, but we have to get when. there's a time and a place for everything. So if we're staying in hope, we're waiting for something to happen. We're not taking charge of our lives. We're passively consuming this crap. And of course, I have to be on, on the computer for more than an hour a week because of what we're doing. But I have to be very discerning about what I consume because I know that even the slightest little thing, and as strong as I can get into my head. So the only way that we can change our lives is to get into the yang portion of who we are. You want change, change is yang. And that's you get into action.
Well,
And by the way,
yin is the expressed life, the physical
it
forms.
isn't just that little girls love their daddies and they miss their daddies and things got messed up. No, it's not just that. The masculine principle is the affectionate principle. Little girls love their daddies because they are a receptacle for the activity of the father. And my dad, I still inside of me, being a tiny little girl wrapped in his big, skinny, lanky arms, and that's a memory that I will go to feel like getting engaged to. So this is important. So in order to change our lives, we have to look at the integrated yang aspects of our nature. That's the positive yang. And by the way, men grab assing with each other, calling each other names. What? You're such an idiot, dude. You're a loser. All of this, believe it or not, that is actually a positive integration of the yin principle. That is a full expression of love. We don't see it. They sound like idiots. We don't talk to each other like that. But I just wanted to point this out. And Mo Renz had a comment. The media, movies, and TV shows are designed to sway the viewing audience in a certain direction. Independent minds are their worst enemies. I never watch television.
Mhm.
Oh my God. That's why you're here. Thank you for coming, by the way. That's even more, that makes it even more special that you're here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my rant. I feel like the worst thing to be right now is a white man. um, and listen, they're not angels. They did their damage. But the thing is that, again, Richard Grant, very interesting. He was talking about this, and I think about this all the time. Guys are going to the gym. They're lifting weights. And what do they do? Their body looks great. Their body looks whatever, right? So they're doing the masculine principle by and then they have to take a selfie of themselves and look in the mirror and send that to social media. Who are you sending that picture to? Are you a man or are you a woman? Are you expecting women to come chase you now? Are you expecting women to come hunt you down for a date and have some game? Because that's not going to fly. We're confused. And, I've never been one that's really been a big fan of taking pictures because I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, you know,
That's true.
and I've certainly liked the way that I've looked over the years, and at times
Mm.
not.
So you
But-
said I might disagree with anything you said. I haven't so far
Oh,
found anything
okay.
to disagree with.
well, sometimes I go into these rants and I go into my own little trail, so I don't know if I'm going to ambush him with something. or not.
Well, I try to be complimentary and try to be
Well, you are, yeah, very
to
much
give
so.
you you needed the forum. It was yours. I have
So
no problem with that.
right, and so for me, I have really, I had, I had really, really severe complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I have lived, I, I, I have lived through sexual assault. But when I went inside to do the work,
So
the
but
most
the inside is
interesting
the inside of yourself.
inside of
Right.
myself,
Okay.
the one thing that became clear is that I had to recognize the masculine principle within me and learn how to love men. And once I learned how to love men, because I'm not going to let criminals deter me from my rightful place in a state of loving consciousness, everything changed. Men raping, the act is aggressive. The reason is a toxic feminine mentality. That's where it comes from.
Mhm.
When women are grabbing each other's hair and slapping each other, that is the manifestation of toxic masculinity. If a man is coming up to me and immediately my response to them is that they're a fucking asshole, that's a manifestation and expression of toxic masculinity. Is it in him? No, it's in me. So now what's happened is women, what we've done is we've internalized the toxic masculine principle to defend ourselves, to be get our rights back or whatever. And men have now internalized the toxic feminine principle. And one of the places that you do see that you do see these men crushed is the Midwest. Bam, manufacturing disappears. Women are the ones that are the breadwinners in the Midwest. There's a disproportionate amount. It's incredible. It's women that are working 2 and 3 jobs and men that can't hold jobs. It's devastating what it's done.
Mhm.
And that is because a toxic feminine principle has landed inside of the men and a toxic masculine principle has landed inside of the women. So that's my rant. I could be wrong, but so far, that's been how it's been shaking out. Because I used to think differently, and my mind is definitely changed. There's my rant.
What time is it?
Oh,
So I think we've covered the mental condition. Again, as I said, they are accommodating, and that's their nature is to always show the positive side.
yeah. Mo Run says, yeah, it really is bizarre.
You know,
Oh, I know. Michael and I are both are like, what the hell is going on? It doesn't even, I was even watching, like some movies from the 70s. And, these people, they're all like, insensitive, they're inappropriate sexually, they have all of this stuff going on, but they still take it upon themselves to talk to each other, to reach out to each other, to negotiate the confusion about one or the other.
mhm.
And the most important thing for us to realize, I'm sure you've heard this before, and we could all hear it again. No one is coming to save us. It's not going to be Sanders. It's not going to be Trump. It's not going to be Obama, whoever your person is. They're not coming to save us. This, our day-to-day lives, we have to do this ourselves. We have to make ourselves a vessel of love and connection. That means that we have to condition ourselves. That means that we have to have a little conversation with ourselves at the end of the day, kind of go over it a little bit. This is kind of a, recovery, also philosophy. We have to do the work and we will be happier for it. That's all. That was my rant.
All right, what time is it?
We are at the top of the hour. So if anybody doesn't have any other requests or anything else that they would like to discuss, we are going to wrap it up for the day. And if you like what you've heard here, please like and subscribe. That will help get us to eventually at least 1,000 followers. That's our goal starting there. And if you would like a personal reading, please click on the link below. I've successfully been able to get to the booking site, so if you have any problems, my apologies. but just let me know. And then I did put my email in the chat here for you since we don't have a lot of people, it won't matter. So if you're having any problems, I'll be able to respond back to you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and then just Mo runs and oh, you guys, really, thank you so much. I get so excited when I come here, and I can't wait to see you. So with that, I'd like to close,
Okay.
and with all our love,
Till our next podcast. Bye.
travel light.
Goodbye.